Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Rob here. Today I want to answer a user question from Austin Spies. He's asking about gear. And I've decided to answer this question in a video format, mainly because it's a detailed question and I have some thoughts to help him out. But my phone deleted it when I pressed back or swiped back by accident, and I didn't feel like typing it again. If you guys have questions like this, I respond to a lot of you down in the comments below. Just go ahead and ask, and I'll help you out as best as I can. I've worked with a lot of gear and can give you my opinions. The nice thing to know is that my opinion is just that, just an opinion. You will always need to make the final decision on what works best for you, But Austin is a new filmmaker that's been working with the iPhone, and I don't mean new as in he doesn't know how to make a film on an iPhone, and the cameras on the iPhone and the quality of iPhones, especially the later generations, there's no problem. If that's what you want to work with as your medium, go for it. So no shame in your game for working on an iPhone. Don't think that at all. I've made wedding videos on the LG G6 back in the day. I did that when I was testing out the G6. It was a pretty interesting thing. You could go check some of those out. But in any event, so I understand the allure to putting a phone with multiple cameras on a gimbal and flying that thing around. And he says that he's got budget limitations, he's got some gigs, and he's got a new project that he's working on, and he needs to stay within those budget limitations. From reading on, it seems like he had been considering the Panasonic HCX2000, like this little one right here, which is the baby brother, but newer than the UX180 or the HCX1, but not as big and brand new or as technologically filled up as the CX350. In any event, the camera he said he was looking at was around $2,500, $2,200, $2,200 in USD at the time that he wrote this, which was today. He says that he needs something that he can stay and work with as a one-man crew. There are a few things that are very important. He needs something that has prioritized battery, storage, usability, autofocus, weight, and of course, look. Something more textured and higher potential for beauty than the iPhone. Now, when he's talking about look, he may be speaking of look like professional, like you know what you're doing. Gear can help you get jobs, especially if you're new and you don't have a lot of work to show for it because it looks good. But the reality is the look of the gear doesn't matter. And I'm sure that Austin knows that. He's probably talking about the look of the image. He wants something that can shoot behind the scenes, music videos, documentary films, all kinds of stuff. And he figures that I'm probably going to suggest to him a mirrorless camera, and I absolutely will, but with caveats. But wants to know what my thoughts are. He saw my video on the HCX2000, this camera right here, and realized that I hate the buttons, and he's kind of shied away from it for that, and for good reason. But the buttons is the good reason. Image quality on that small camera right here is really excellent. Low lights, a harder choice. We're going to get into that. And he wants to know what I think. He's been considering the HCX1 or the UX180, which is that one back there, right? Older camera, 2016 circa, and older all kinds of things, but bigger sensor than this one. The same line of cameras, same family of cameras. He just wants to know what I think. Okay, Austin, I got you covered. First of all, the number one thing that I would suggest is to consider your audio. Boom, boom, boom. So what we've talked about for everything is what you want photo or video-wise, really video-wise, but audio is going to be so important no matter what it is. I would suggest getting a couple of lavalier mics that are wireless, and I would also suggest getting maybe one cheap or two cheap wired lavaliers. You can get them for $50 for two. Because you're going to need audio. You're also going to need something for it to go into. Now, if you're getting a camcorder, you've got no problem there because you're going to have excellent audio built into the camera, generally 24-bit linear PCM mics that are built into it with the ability to record 24-bit 48K sample rates. Some camcorders will do higher, but most of them will do 24-bit 48K. Specifically, the HCX1 will not. It'll do 16-bit 48K. I would stay away from 16-bit 48K audio, which is better than CD sample rate, but what you really want is an external recorder at that point. I guess there's many ways to look at this, but the first way, before any of it's broken down, is audio. Think about your audio. If I was going to do it, I would suggest a Hollyland Lark 150. I absolutely love that system. I do not own it. I've had my hands on it several times. I've bought different systems. The Sennheiser XSWD wireless microphone system is great. I think that it works well. It's XLR based, so it plugs in straight to my XLR connectors on my handles and everything, just like you would expect. But alas, I do have some dropouts from time to time. I've sent a couple of the units back to Sennheiser. They fixed them. They come with a 2-year warranty, but they're also very expensive. So I would stay away from Sennheiser at the beginning, and I would look at getting something like the Camcorders Boom XD series. I've had decent luck with that. The XU series, I've had better luck with that, and that's something that Camcorders sent me recently. I don't usually suggest Camcorders. I actually like the Boom XU, but you've got more stuff to do because it's UHF. You have to check the networks and the channels to make sure that your signals aren't going to be fuzzy, but I like it because it's a less crowded system in my area. Everything else works on 2.4. But out of that, I think that the Hollyland Lark 150 would be your best bet. 2 channels into 1 receiver, which means 2 mics, just like the other systems you could do, but also it has a very high output, just like the Boom XU. So it's around 18 decibels of output, which is like 35 milliwatts, something like that. So it's pretty good. The Sennheiser is just 10 milliwatts, for example. The Boom XD is 10 milliwatts. The Boom XU is 38 milliwatts, 36 milliwatts output power. More output power, which means that you're going to have a signal that works better, farther, longer in interference. It's a louder signals, not louder to your audio, but louder to the transmitter-receiver combo. In any event, I'm suggesting audio. You might chase your tail like I do. I got so many doggone shotgun mics, it doesn't make any sense. I would leave shotgun mics off the list and consider pencil condenser microphones that you might boom if you need to do on-location sound. For that, I'm going to be quite serious here. You could get the Behringer B5 to start with. You could go ahead and get the Behringer C2s. Behringer is a brand that's got related quality issues up and down, but if you get a good set, they're pretty good. For $50, you can't really go wrong. You can boom them in. I actually have some on order to do a test for you guys. I recently bought the Avantone Mark 1 or whatever, the red one. I like that. The Lewitt 040 match pair or the 140 is pretty nice, but you're getting a little bit more. I would look for a pencil condenser microphone in the $50 to $80 range. Newer, however you say it, actually has several. They have one pair that has multiple cardioid patterns that you could switch out the capsules and you could get a pair for $100. That's like having 6 different mics in many ways, and that might be a great place to start. Just having cheap audio microphones, well, not completely cheap because you could go pile and get a condenser pencil mic for $15 to $20. I wouldn't suggest that. But if you're spending about $50, $60 per individual pencil condenser or a small diaphragm microphone, you put it in a proper windsock or a boom arm or a blimp or something that covers it and you boom it in, you're going to get good sound. You're definitely going to get better sound than you would with a shotgun. You're definitely going to get better sound, which is what you would on the on-camera microphone. And you will probably get better sound than what you would have on a lavalier. I like lavaliers. Things are up in the air with that. But in any event, I spent this amount of time to share with you. Please consider audio. Your audience will thank you. You will get more work with lower quality video and better quality audio than anything else, because people will generally tolerate a lower quality of video. Not that I would want you to do poorly, but if they want 4K, but you're delivering in 1440p or whatever, people might overlook some visual deficiencies. But if the audio is bad, they're just going to stop listening. Okay, enough said. Let's go on to the actual question that you had. You were asking about the HCX1 versus the 2000. First of all, the 2000 is not even where we should be considering, right? The top handle with the XLR inputs is great, but the biggest difference between the only difference between all of the HCX 1500, 2000 and the CX10, the smaller one like this one right here, the only difference between all those models, other than the top handle really, because the 1500 doesn't come with it, is network connection. SDI on the 2000, SDI and NDI on the 3000, plus some P2 profiles, and then everything else is exactly the same. And the 1500 does not come with the top handle. Now, the 1500 comes in around $1,600 from Adorama right now. You can get the 1500 with the top handle for like $2,000. So you get the 1500, the top handle, you get an SD card, everything else, $2,000. The 2000, the HCX 2000 is actually $2,197. Don't spend the extra $200. You're getting the SDI. Unless you know you need SDI, don't pay for it. I would suggest just to get the 1500 off the bat, because if you get the Hollyland Lark, well, if you're trying to use a plug-in microphone using the 1/8 inch microphone jack, microphone in, and the top handle at the same time, it won't work. It just won't work. It expects to have the connection come in through the XLR ports. So you'll need an adapter, and you'll have to buy the top handle. Well, save yourself $300, right? And just get the the X1500. And later on, if you need the top handle, buy it, because it does have a pretty nifty light. I like the light. I use it a lot, especially with this camera. And I like the look of it too. It's very important. So it's a nice portable small thing. It works well. Now, the light, the brackets, all of those things, to be fair, are very helpful. So if you can afford it, then get it, right? Now, you might know that I hate the buttons. I hate the buttons all the time. I made a video yesterday. It was a flat earth video a couple days ago, actually. I'm doing a series on flat earth. If you think the earth is flat and you're watching this video, please comment down below. Maybe we could have some dialogue. I'd like to get you on the Live at Lunch show with Rob. In any event, and if you don't think the earth is flat, then just put a world emoji down there in the comments. I'd love to see it. But in any event, I hate the buttons on this camera. They are absolutely terrible. They're bad. They're terrible. Okay, so you saw the video where I talked about they're terrible. They are so bad, I would not buy this again because the buttons are so bad. I also did not return it because I love the size, the form factor, the portability. When I set the camera, I usually use the app on my phone. I hate the buttons that much. It irritates me. They're fiddly. And sometimes, especially when you're moving quickly, you don't necessarily know if you set it because it's hard to see the screen. There's not a lot of tactile feedback. You got to move this rotary encoder. All of these things are the reason that I'll use the app. Panasonic, I do believe, should have been ashamed because of the buttons. They really should have. They did better buttons over here. These buttons are perfect, right? Why didn't we? In any event. However, the image quality is great. The image quality is actually even better than great. I would go so far as to say excellent. Now, I've got a lot of experience using this camera in the dark. I understand what to look for. That is a huge learning curve with this camera because the sensor is tiny, just a little bit larger than what's in most cell phones. Compare that to the HCX1, where the sensor is a 1-inch sensor, which is quite a bit larger than the one in here. In any event, both of these cameras have smaller sensors than what you would use in a Micro Four Thirds camera like the GH5 you suggested, which I would absolutely not suggest because your qualifications were 3 important things. Well, there were several, but 3 were really important. Battery and portability and size are all the same kind of thing. 4-hour battery life on this with every battery, so no problem. Switch them out, easy to go, plug in, charge, yada, yada. Nice. But you also mentioned autofocus. I think the autofocus, believe it or not, is better on the camcorder than I do on the GH series of cameras, just the way it is. In fact, I like the Panasonic so much, I bought the full-frame S5. Okay, so if you were going to buy a camera and you wanted autofocus to be one of your main concerns, then you would have to not look at Panasonic. You need to look at Sony or Canon. I don't shoot Nikon currently or Canon currently, but I keep up with them. Nikon's got a firmware update, especially for the Z9, and I think it trickled down to help everybody else out. In any event, I got to share with you, no, you don't want Panasonic for autofocus. Now, that's not because it's bad. You see, I use it all the time. However, I understand how it works. I've got plenty of different systems, and I also know when I'm going to use it and not use it. And most of the time when I'm using my S5, I'm behind the camera. One of my camera operators is behind the camera, and we will use it in in autofocus mode. But if we get into a spot where the light gets low because it's using contrast detect instead of phase detect, we'll switch to manual focus. Now, if you're okay with doing that, then the suggestion for the camera would be get the Panasonic S5, period. It will outclass all of these cameras, including, but not limited to, I just realized I had the two cameras up next to another. Okay, sorry. In any event, the Panasonic S5 is an amazing camera. It's a wonderful tool. It's got just great image quality. So does the Sony a7 III. The difference is that 10-bit sensor and the updated menu. I feel like I'm the Terminator when I look through here because of all of the heads-up display and things like that. Autofocus is better on the Sony a7 III, right? It's just better over there. And the a7 IV is out, and they've got all these different things. But if you're going to spend $1,600 for a body only, or get that amazing kit, that 20 to 60 kit lens, I got it over there. I use it way more than I would have thought. I really like it. I could go on to a whole thing. That's a great kit to start out with. Plus, if you pair this with a Ninja 5, you actually get amazing Apple ProRes RAW recording, which some of your clients may require. These are great ways to buy one camera with a system that you can build into. Now, I suggest that over all the conveniences of a camcorder for one reason. This is truly multi-role, video and photo. And it's got a huge full-frame sensor that's absolutely gorgeous. It will do 4K 60, although in a crop. However, the crop will be, I believe it's 7.5 times bigger sensor than this, which would be 1/2 of a time larger than the Micro Four Thirds sensor you were looking at in the GH5. It's a no-brainer. However, if you want to be able to do 4K 60 without a crop, things like that, I would consider the Fujifilm X-T3. Great system. You can pick a new one up for around $1,000 body only and get a nice lens, a couple of those primes, something like that. You can be kitted out for about the same amount. However, if you could go full frame, go full frame. It will help you with all low light situations, and you will be glad you did. Out of my cameras, this S5 has the absolute best image quality, followed up by my Sony a7 III. I would say my Panasonic HCX 2000, 1500, whatever, that one. I would also then go on to the A7R Mark II that I've got. I'd go over there to the A7 II, actually the A6500, and then the A7 II would be at the very bottom. And there's some other cameras we're not even mentioning. Believe it or not, I make a lot of my videos with the DJI Pocket 2. It's right over there. I love it. And that brings us to another thing. If you're going to be making videos, you could, if you go the camcorder or the mirrorless camera route, you could augment what you're doing with the DJI Pocket 2 in order to get some flying drone dolly type of shots, because you can put it at the end of a 10-foot selfie stick and fly that thing everywhere. So there's a lot of things to consider. But keeping that aside, and I'll give you a kit suggestion here in just a moment. We'll build it out together. But I want to talk about why you would then, however, choose a camcorder. Now, I would suggest get 10-bit. So that's the only reason I wouldn't get the Panasonic HCX1 or UX180. It's 8-bit. You're going to pay more for it. It's older technology. Stop. Don't do it. It's a mistake. Yes, it is better. Low light. That's the only thing that it's got over this. But only marginally. Even though my testing, I found only marginally. But it is a bigger sensor. This gets 24 times zoom. 48 times if you do clear image, or that iZoom, 36 time in 4K for iZoom as well. It's rock solid, handheld, optical image stabilization, small form factor, put it together, pick up, run, and gun. There's very little opportunity to get bokeh on this camera without working for it. You will get bokeh on the Panasonic HCX1 or a 1-inch censored camera without working for it. It'll be a lot easier, especially when you zoom in, and you're definitely going to get a lot of background blur on a mirrorless camera of a Micro Four Thirds or higher sensor size, especially on a full-frame sensor. So if you're looking for a bokeh, lots of background separation, not so much on the Panasonic X2000, 1500, CX10, but only right out of the box. There are ways to get bokeh. You just have to plan your shot. Now, that means, I mean, you can always zoom in on something. So you can step back, zoom in, and you can get more bokeh. But it just won't happen as easily and naturally as everything else, or as other systems. But what you do get is a system that you can grab, run, and gun with pretty easily. And I like it for that. I actually take this a lot of places. And believe it or not, I really enjoy putting this camera. I should put a picture in here. I probably won't because I'm not trying to do that much with this video. But I usually put this on the Zhiyun, however you say it, guys. I don't know. It's midnight here. Crane 3. Okay? I put it on the Crane 3 and I fly that sucker around. It's really cool. And it's very handy. It's useful. So you would get it for those reasons. It's got some great codecs, up to 200 megabits per second, internal, H.264, H.265, 60 frames a second, 4K at full sensor readout, which is nice. And it works. So there's a reason it's on my team. But it is, a camcorder will always be a more specialist job. If you think that you might do any photos, you should be looking at a mirrorless camera. So, assuming you've got a $2,200 budget, the Panasonic, I would look for and purchase from a reputable dealer a used Panasonic S5 with the kit lens, and I would get it around $1,800. That would leave you just enough money to purchase an extra battery. If you want the battery grip, it's an extra $300, but I wouldn't worry about that just yet. A couple of cords to connect your monitor and everything. A field monitor for a couple of $100 or $100. You can get some cheap ones out there so that you can see it a little bit brighter. And then I would also get the Hollyland Lark and place that right on top so you have your microphones. If you didn't want to go with that and you wanted to go with the something else, I would consider the XT3 for $1,000 with a prime lens or a zoomable lens or something like that. The 18 to 50, 18 to the 16 to 70. Anyways, their new f4 lens that they've got with it is good. Their 2.82 f4, their original kit lens. 18 to 55 is an excellent lens to get it. If you get one of those lenses like that, Fujifilm makes great lenses. You're going to be around $1,500, $1,600. That'll give you a chance to pick up the Pocket Creator Kit for about $400. That puts you close to $2,000. Pick up Hollyland Lark, and now you're at $2,200. That's where your price range was for the X2000, and you've got two cameras, one that can be put and flown around at the end of a zoom, end of a boom pole, and it'll work great like that. If you wanted to go straight up camcorder, then I would do the same thing, except for the camcorder in this instance, I would get the X1500. I would forego the top handle. I'd pick up the Hollyland Lark, as I probably at that point in time pick up the Zoom F3, which is a 32-bit audio recorder, and I would definitely pick up a 1/8 inch to XLR adapter and a couple of shotgun, or no, a couple of those small pencil condenser microphones, because you could use them for something, and maybe some lighting at that point in time. You could spend your budget that way. In any event, those three options are going to get you up and running and gunning based on them, no matter what you need to do. And I hope that you found this completely helpful. There are thousands of things to talk about here, but I'm just gonna close it down, guys. It looks like I've been doing this for almost 30 minutes now. I don't know what the video will be, but I want to thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments below if it helped you out. Don't forget, if you find any of this helpful, use an Amazon link, support me on PayPal, send me a cup of coffee. I truly appreciate it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Austin Spies. Are you sure you're not a spy? You sound like a double agent. And in any event, congratulations, good luck. Email me if I can help you in any way. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.